My name is Regina Smith, and I currently serve Naropa as the Vice President for Mission, Culture, and Inclusive Community. I came to Naropa as a student. I was a student in it's now called the Master's in Contemplative Psychotherapy and Buddhist Psychology program. So I stayed on and became a staff member. I started as an undergraduate advisor for undergraduate psychology students. And while I was doing that, I started participating in the Diversity and Inclusion Committee. In 2015, there was a student protest that was asking Naropa to hold itself accountable for its institutional racism. And I had a lot of relationships with the students that were a part of that protest, primarily students of color. And so I was asked to step in and facilitate some of those conversations, and then eventually asked to become the Director of Diversity and Inclusion. And I believe I became a Vice President in the summer of 2020. I think we accept this idea of status quo because we're suffering from a failure of the imagination. In order for us to get out of the kind of depressed state that I think we're all feeling globally, we have to be able to think more radically about what is possible. We put other types of epistemologies, ways of believing, other types of spirituality at the center of being together. And ethnofuturism is the idea that every ethnicity has its own contribution to creating that new world that is distinct and comes from its rich history of ancestry and its rich history of spirituality. And I think that's another part of the beauty of that work, is that it's not limited to what we can see or the language that we've been taught to use. The greatest deficit that we have in the world is that our leaders lack moral courage. We need leaders that we can trust. We need leaders who care, who treat the world as their child, who understand that we're all somebody's children that need to be cared for. And what I've learned throughout my various roles at Naropa is how do I continue to strengthen my moral courage while at the same time learning more and more about interpersonal, or what the world needs, or what other people's needs are, and how to incorporate that into my view. And I think we do a lot of training and educating around leadership and helping students to develop the qualities they need to become the kind of leaders that can create a culture that's more collaborative and inclusive than the one that we all live in right now. I've done or do a fair amount of coaching for underrepresented students. So students of color will often come to me to get advice and guidance on how to really show up as themselves in a primarily white institution, which can be really challenging, and how to work with their faculty and other students through those learning journeys that everyone is on. When people come to me and they have lost their faith or their courage in humanity, and they're looking for some guidance as to how to keep fighting the good fight, I often ask them what they believe in that's bigger than themselves. So I guess I tell them to have faith, to surround themselves with people who believe in them and who can reflect back the best parts of them. And I've been hearing a lot Mr. Rogers' quote, look for the helpers. So I look for the helpers, and there are a lot of helpers at Naropa.